We are live. We're live, Miss Hattie.
Okay. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending the meeting tonight, the Justice and Memory Team meeting. This is our 12th meeting, and what we're going to do is what we always do is start our meeting with a moment of silence for the Leonardtown descendants. So let's do that now. Thank you.
I'm
It's
so
okay.
sorry about that. I didn't realize my
David.
mic was unmuted, and my apologies.
That's
Sorry,
okay.
I'd apologize. That was so sweet.
Yeah,
It sounds like
it's
someone
very
else just
sweet.
hopped on.
Yep, that was a phone call. I think.
It's Mike. I'm sorry. I'm here to help y'all get a quorum if you need it.
Hello, Commissioner Hamby. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We're good, Mike, but thank you for hopping on. The Justice and Memory Project was assembled by our mayor in September 2020. This team is working together on avenues of atonement outlined in the Leonardtown Project resolution. So this is why we are meeting. We are continuing to meet. We are being creative on the things that we are trying to do. Very, very creative. We have a bunch of smart team members. I thank you all for being so smart and energetic. I want to encourage you to keep up the good work.
All right.
Okay, we're going to start the meeting off with Jen Rice. And before you start, Jen, I just want to thank you and your team, all your work, the energy that you have put out and for all the meetings and all the events. I want to thank you. And Shayla, you have been there too. Thank you. And who else has been there? But anyway, everybody, I don't want to start calling names. I miss people. Thank you. Go ahead, Jen.
Patty. Yeah, so I'll give an update on the Walk of Recognition. So we had two like kind of events that have taken place. As Miss Hattie was talking about earlier before we were streaming, we went to the CCSD Family Fun Day on Saturday, November 13th at Southeast Clarke Park. And we talked about a variety of activities that this team is doing, but we also talked in particular about the Mosaic, which is, as we've been updating lately, under development with collaborations between us on the JMP, some students, descendants, the community. And we gave out, I would guess, a couple hundred flyers. It was great. So we have those flyers out there where people can connect with us through social media, through email. We had great conversations, dozens and dozens of one-on-one conversations with people and families. In fact, we had a family come the next day to the workshop on the Mosaic. It was lovely. So we did that on November 13th. And that Sunday, we had our second community workshop for the Mosaic at Walker Park. It was a beautiful day, less cold. It was very well attended. We had some presentations and we had some hands-on kind of like craft and arts activities where we elicited ideas and feedback from people of all ages actually about the Mosaic. It was lovely and wonderful. We had like children and older people and everyone was being creative and involved. So that was lovely. So we had those two events last weekend. And I can answer questions about those, but then two more quick updates and then I'll open it up for questions. For the historical signage part of the Walk of Recognition, we are getting close to an RFP. We have to get an artist or interpretive graphic design firm to help us create the 3 signs that are more about the historical, cultural, informational signs. And we have a really nice RFP, request for proposals, that will go out shortly. I provided some feedback and we will circulate that to this committee as soon as we have a final draft. And last but not least, we do need formal clarification on the right-of-way that is available on Finley. South of Baxter, all the way through the Walk of Recognition, that is where Cloverhurst meets. There's been, we need formal clarification. And I know that Selah and others have been working on that with proper folks at TPW and elsewhere, but we really need to know, what are we working with specifically all along Finley, west side, south of Baxter, until it comes down to Cloverhurst. So those are my 4 updates about our events, our RFP, and our right-of-way. Any questions?
Nope.
When, I know due to the holidays, we probably won't have any more events, but when will your team start back with the events?
So the plan that's a great question. So we'll come up with a more formal design that actually has, artistic renderings of what the shape of the mosaic will be and what the art on it might be. And then we'll start doing a second round of community workshops where we'll elicit conversations, feedback on that. But I think it'll come to the team next. My sense is there's sort of like a stage where we need to have like a formal proposal to this team.
Okay,
And then when this team agrees on a proposal for the mosaic and we feel good about it, we could workshop it with the community and see what they think. And then I think it goes to the mayor commission.
it goes to the mayor commissioners after that, and we'll contact Mariah. We can contact you and Mike once we get all the recommendations and we approve it through the Justice and Memory team. We'll send it to you all. Okay?
So theoretically, like early spring next year, we could have it at the mayor and commission for sort of whatever the formal vote is that's required on the mosaic.
Right. And whatever vote we need during that time, we want to do it all the voting. Well, there's 3 or 4 different things that you have to vote on. We need all that done at one time, so we won't have to be coming back and forth. Hopefully, that way.
Can I ask 2 questions to staff?
Yes.
You can ask questions.
I know I was waiting for Salem to be able to unmute.
Sorry.
It's so hard sometimes to find the mute. So I guess my question would be, 1, what is a feasible time frame for the RFP for the historical signage, that the one that I hope you received from me a few days ago? That's the first question. The second is, when do you think we'll receive formal clarification on the exact amount of right-of-way that we're dealing with on Finley? Those are my 2 questions.
So I know that in terms of the historical signage, the RFP, you sent that over. I would imagine that based off of where we're at in that, like I do think that we're in pretty good shape. But I would imagine that TPW and probably also Stephanie at the Arts Division might want to weigh in just on some logistical pieces in terms of the installation. And I know there was a timeline piece at the bottom. We can definitely work, in the next couple of weeks to kind of get some of those details ironed out. I don't know. I don't have a lot of information in terms of once it gets into the hands of finance, what that timeline looks like. I can certainly follow up with them, but I couldn't give a definitive date. In terms of the right of way, I know that we are definitely still working across departments to pull all the details together in terms of what was requested, in terms of the exact measurements, but we do not have those at this time either.
Great. Yeah, we'll keep in touch about both those items. I thought the RFP was in great shape, but I do get that it has to go through lots of other departments. Ideally, we would have that hopefully out there early in the new year, right? Hopefully.
I would agree.
And then the right of way, I will just stress, as you know, Selah, so I'm just kind of repeating for the committee who hasn't been on all our calls. The sooner we can get formal clarification on what we're working with throughout that particular stretch of Finley, the better, because it does affect planning. So we really would like formal clarification on our right-of-way access all along Finley as soon as it's possible. And I know all of you are working hard and doing the best you can to get that info.
Yes.
Thank you so much for all your help.
Oh, you're welcome.
We have gotten a lot of feedback about the Walk of Recognition, the mosaic, and the post. This is so important to the community. So we need to make sure that we continue to get feedback, and we have your team has done a good job, but we need to continue to get feedback. So when we get this in place, we will know the residents, the first descendants, and all the community have had input. So that's very, very important. And it's important to the community to see something like this being done to a community that has been erased.
Yeah.
It,
That's right.
yeah, it was erased. And so people are looking at this really closely. So we need to all continue to work together close to make sure that this happen in the way that it should, because it's important to the community. I know that we're talking about having, some more input around more the second descendants, and that's going to take place, and to make sure that the second descendants have input as well. So we are trying to reach everybody to make sure that the second descendants have an input. So when they come and see it, they will say, well, okay, I had input on this. So thank you, Jen, for your team for all the work that they have done or continue to do for this. Anybody else want to chime in? Okay.
It's exciting. I mean, all the people involved are starting to put pieces together, and it's starting to be something we can visualize, the various components, the mosaics coming together. We'll have more, renderings soon. So we're about to have something tangible to talk about. It's really exciting. I couldn't be more happy with everybody's support and work here. So thank you, everybody.
So you all have been working on this going on a year next month, correct, Jen?
Well, this committee approved the concept design for the Walk of Recognition about a year ago. It took a minute to figure out how to get it going, and we've been working primarily on the mosaics since July.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Any other thing around the Walk of Recognition, the mosaic, before we move on? Anybody else want to have any input? Okay.
My cat does. He loves a remote meeting. Sorry. He loves it.
Okay, let's move to the Black History Center. As you know, as all of us have talked about, the Costa building will house the Black History Center initially. And we are working on making that, I guess, making sure that that happens within the next year or so.
Okay.
As it stands, I'm going to continue to be the chairperson for a few minutes until for a while, until we can get all the teams up and running. But community outreach is Charlene Mosh, and she has putting flyers and things together. Charlene, you want to say anything? Because we haven't gotten this as far as long on this as we have the Walk of Recognition. We're just trying to get this started up. Go ahead, Charlene.
Yes, so the community outreach subgroup for the Black History Center has not met recently, but I do have a few updates. So the first one is, like Ms. Hattie just said, I created a flyer, not only for with information about the Black History Center, but also just about this team in general, talking about how it came to be, and some of the various projects that are kind of in progress. Yeah. Did you have a question?
Yeah, I wanted to ask if those materials had been shared with the rest of the team.
No.
I would definitely like to let my constituents know about that.
Yeah, so they haven't been shared yet. I've only shared it with Ms. Hattie last week, so that is a part of the plan. I wanted to get her, I guess, thoughts and approval of it first in case I was missing anything. But yeah, because I know that we've been talking just about people knowing what this team has been doing. So I finally got around to getting that done. So Miss Hattie, would it be okay if I shared it with everyone and got everyone's feedback, or did you want me to get your feedback first before sharing it with the group?
Well, what I was trying to do is the mayor and I had talked about and to put in a whole overview of all the work we've done on all the committees. So I was going to include that and then get everybody, you and I and Jen, to work on that one overview and to share with the committee and with the mayor and commissioner so that everybody can understand where we are and the roadblocks that we have the challenges that we have had to put some of these things in place. We are in uncharted waters with this team, so it's challenging, but we made it happen. So, but that overview is going to be put together maybe before, not the 17th meeting, but maybe another meeting that we're going to have so we can focus on all the teams and all the teams work. So we'll get that to you and this team, Commissioner Parker.
But yeah, so for this specific flyer, it was just really about like ways that community members could get involved, specifically with the mosaic, and I included the email address for that. And then as well as I created an email address for community outreach for the Black History Center. So that goes into the next point, which is just trying to figure out ways to actually engage the larger community more, because there has been this subgroup of people kind of talking and planning out. But I mean, just like with the mosaic, I think that this Black History Center specifically needs to have a lot of community input, whether it's from organizations or just individuals. So I'm going to reach out to Selah and just to discuss like ways that we could possibly partner with the Inclusion Office to do some of that. And another update is that my co-lead, Kimberly Davis, she is working on a communication strategy and plan for our subgroup. And then final thing, so I had a recent conversation with Tommy Valentine, who's a strategist for the Black History Center. And he's providing me with some of his contacts for kind of similar Black History Centers in the region, just to get some guidance, because as Ms. Hattie said, we're kind of in uncharted territories right now, and we're all learning as we're doing. So as soon as I get that contact information, I'll be reaching out to them. And then I've also reached out to the executive director of the DeKalb County History Center. Again, not the same thing, but I mean, I think that they have a lot of expertise and guidance that could be really helpful. So those are all of my updates. Oh, I guess I should also share what the email address is. So the email address for that community outreach subgroup is accblackhistorycenter@gmail.com. Very straight to the point. I'm glad that was an available tag, but those are all my updates.
Well, thank you. Thank you for what all you've done.
You said it was ACC Black History Center at
Gmail.
Okay,
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, in the on the agenda, Jen did list all the Facebook, the Instagram, Twitter, and the Gmail, all for the mosaic. So that is available for anyone who wants to go and look and see what's going on with the mosaic. All those accounts are there.
Okay.
Okay, getting back to the public historian. We finally got 2 leaders for the public historian. They have met once. It's Susan Pittard and Mary Blake. They have met once, and they have not, they're in just to meet. It's like a meet and greet and trying to understand what they are going to do with their team. So it's no update. Just wanted you to know that we have leaders for the public historian group. Yay!
All right.
Yay!
All right.
So that started. Fundraiser. We trying to still find a leader for fundraising. That is the only committee that's left that does not have a leader. So hopefully someone will drop out of the clouds and raise their hands and say, I want to do this. But right now we don't have one. Hopefully we will have one soon. If we have that group together, then that way we would have completed all the committees supporting the Black History Center. Any questions? It's been a lot of work, you all. I just want you to know that it's been a lot of work, but we're gonna get it done.
All right.
And questions? Okay. If no questions, we'll move on. We'll talk about the quilt, the Lennon quilt. It is being assembled. It is going to be beautiful. Go ahead.
Did we approve the minutes at the beginning of the meeting?
Ah, thank you.
Okay.
We didn't even read them.
I'm
Thank
sorry
you.
to be a wet blanket, but I just remember I was like, something doesn't seem quite right. I don't know.
That's okay. Go ahead. Let's back up.
Yeah.
Stop.
They're lengthy this time because we talked about it a lot last time. I offered a few very minor changes. Sorry, my animals are all going nuts because it's winter time. 1 second.
Okay, who wants to read the minutes of the last meeting?
I can do it since it's my fault. We're doing this.
Yeah, I was gonna say I offered two. Sorry, I offered two very, very minor clarifications, like a few words. And Charlene, you do such a great job. Thank you so much. So,
Oh, it's not me. It's Selah who put this together, I believe.
Selah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Whoever's doing the minutes is doing a very thorough job. And I don't typically make changes to minutes. There were just a couple small clarifications that I did send to Selah. So we can discuss those if needed, or I'll let somebody who knows procedure better than me tell me how to proceed.
If I understand Robert's rules of orders correctly, since they're sent out in advance, I don't believe that we actually have to read them all. I think that if everyone, the previous minutes have been distributed and the chair asks if there are any corrections to the minutes. Jen, you've noted that you have made some corrections. And I think if I understand it correctly, we can proceed with a vote for the minutes without reading them all because they have been sent out in advance. Does that sound like correct and good to go? Okay. So just save the time for everyone on the meeting.
Okay, everybody good?
Good.
Everybody got the minutes. So are there any the corrections have been made to the minutes?
Yeah, you can see them in your inbox.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was a clarification, making sure that it's clear the Walk of Recognition is coordinated by this committee in collaboration with the community, UGA students, descendants. It was a very minor clarification. So I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as they were distributed by Selah at 4:45 today. Any seconds?
A second.
All right, everyone in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Abstentions? All right. Thanks, Mariah. That was an important detail.
Thanks,
That
Mariah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It takes all of us working together to make sure that we stay on track.
It does.
Anything else before we move on? Any questions? Anything else? Okay. Let's talk about the quilt. The quilt is being assembled and it's going to be beautiful by the art class, one of the classes at UGA. It's going to be a queen size quilt, which is handmade and plenty of input from the community as well as the descendants for this quilt. So it should be pretty assembled by the first quarter of next year. And then it will be displayed in different places on campus and in the city of Athens.
All right.
We'll let everybody know where it is so anybody can come and see it. What a beautiful job people have done, the students have done.
Good.
That's all that we have on the agenda. Unless someone has, Mariah?
Just making everything difficult today. No, this may be a question better directed at Mayor Gertz when he is back, but I was seeking clarification on the role of this body in continuing work with regards to other lost neighborhoods. My understanding was that at some point we would use some of the model for like organizing and research that was employed with Lennontown to understand and make connections with folks that were displaced from Lickskillet and the Bottoms and other areas like that. I know that we're already got our hands full with still working through recognition and redress for Lennontown. I do think in some ways that expanding that work to also include people from other neighborhoods could help build a movement for, and I just talked to you earlier today, Ms. Hattie, about some state level legislation changes that are necessary to like truly achieve all of our goals. And so reaching out to more folks that have also been impacted by urban renewal, I think fits into that work. So I just wanted to raise that question if any staff in the inclusion office or manager's office is aware of when that work will begin, and any other feedback y'all have on like tucking that into what this body is doing, since we've got a lot of momentum on some other things.
Sure. No, it's a great question, and Sayla, I'll take it first if you have anything. I don't want to preempt what anybody else has to say. And Mayor and I have talked about that too. And Miss Hattie, we talked about that to begin with,
Yes.
about initially doing all those neighborhoods at one time. And Miss Hattie was pretty emphatic that no, I don't want to dilute what we're doing with Lennontown. And then we decided, okay, well, then what we do is try and create a model. And I know you just said that. I'm just doing this for the benefit of folks to catch them up. So I think that the mayor's talked about, kicking off those extra neighborhoods. And Miss Hattie, I think if he hasn't talked to you, he was going to catch up with you on the charge and make sure kind of where we were in this stage before he left for to go on his vacation. But he's coming back tomorrow. So if you haven't talked already, I'm sure he's going to be, and we can represent this to him, Commissioner Parker.
Great.
Yes.
That's helpful. So perhaps at our next meeting, we can have some discussion of that, whether it is of interest among the members of this body to expand the work, or perhaps not yet. My second question pertained to the Black History Center. Hattie and I also spoke earlier about, there's been sort of informal conversations around wanting that space to the cost of building to be the Black History Center, but I don't believe that any sort of agreement has been formalized. And so I wanted to, again, maybe inquire with staff if what would need to happen in order to initiate that, or, any sort of history that could be provided about where, or context for where we are now. Since I know that we have discussed its renovations, et cetera, as a part of discussions of other things like SPLOST related recently.
Sure. And if you'll just indulge me for a second, I'll catch everybody else up. So the Costa building next to City Hall, owned by Athens-Clarke County Unified Government, and the subject of a 2011 SPLOST project to renovate the building. There was interest in purchasing the building by private folks, but we're kind of beholden to use the SPLOST funds as the citizens voted on it to renovate that building. And the mayor and commission have approved the renovations of the building. What they've not approved is the use within, or the tenants. And that was a discussion that there was a study done to see what kind of uses could be in there. And as you might imagine, you could put offices in there. There was a discussion about a potential restaurant in the bottom floor. There was a discussion about maybe the Economic Development Office and the Northeast Georgia Business Alliance, and maybe a minority entrepreneurship incubator. So there's been a number. The Children's Museum was discussed several years ago. So there's been multiple different uses, but there's been no decisions made. So to answer your question directly, the commission would really have to decide what was going to happen within those walls. It's not going to impede. Right now, the renovation is really more of a shell type thing, and then we can retrofit. It won't preempt anything that will go in there. Let me just say it that way. But we are at a point, Commissioner Parker, where we need to take that up with the commission to say, what uses would you like to see in that building? So ultimately, y'all have to decide. You'd have to vote as to how to use that building, and then any additional funds that will be required to fit it for those purposes, whatever those are, and or an agreement with an external entity if they were going to bring some dollars to the table.
Good to know. Thank you. I'm glad everybody's up to speed on where we are with that now.
Thank you.
Okay.
So is there like a timeline on that though, in terms of like when something would need to be presented or discussed with the commission?
Well, it is something that the mayor and I have spoken about. We meet weekly to just talk about his things that he wants, that he's reminding me that the commission needs done, and then I tell him about things that we're working on. And we've talked about this several times about we really need to initiate this conversation again. So the good news is the demolition of the building should start mid-December. So we've been waiting on this project and y'all, it's not one of those things where government drug its feet and never got done. When they lay out a splosh, they tier it, and this was put in the very end of the show, right? And so that's kind of where we are now. But that building, after all these years, is finally gonna start its renovation. So now's the time, Charlene, to answer that.
So would
And
that go through the typical work session presentation and then agenda setting and voting meeting? Because I do think, for planning purposes, as something as important and big and complex as the Black History Center, it's helpful to know if the space that that's been sort of visualized is available. So is it something that we need to get on a work session agenda relatively soon?
Well, I would say if as much as y'all can define what it is you envision there. So for instance, um, how big is the space? How much do you estimate it might cost? Who will run it? If you expect the government to run it, then you would need to say that. I mean, we're not at a place of taking formal proposals, and it could be that the commission does say, well, just to be fair to everybody out there, Children's Museum, what have you, that we do an RFP and let proposals come in so that transparently everybody's had the opportunity to put their idea in the hopper, and then the commission can decide which way it wanted to go. That's just one way you could do it. The commission could certainly say, no, we're doing X and Y and Z, and this is how it's going to happen. So I think really, I just need to get with the mayor and see what kind of direction he'd like to take on process.
Well, thank you. The mayor and I have spoke about this a couple of times. Thank you, Blaine, for bringing us up to date. The mayor and I have spoke about this a couple of times, and other commissioners I have spoken with as well, because we have asked for some space in the constable, and we have been talking about that to the public. So the only thing that we haven't had is the American commissioners to vote on it. But we're at the point now that we have been talking about it so much that we really need to get a vote of occupancy so we can make sure that some space in that building is for the Black History Center. Because we have been communicating it all over Athens and everywhere for a long time, but it's time now to get the vote and to make sure that we have a space there so we can move forward.
So how much space, Ms. Hattie, are y'all talking about?
We had talked about a floor in the building. I mean, I'm not sure how, that's what we had talked about, a floor in the building. That's where we would start and initiate the start of the Black History Center until, future plans to move someplace else, but that's where we would start.
So what would be the process then to request mayor and commission approval on one floor of the Costa building being allocated for the Black History Center for, let's say, what time period, Ms. Hattie? 2 to 3 years or something like that?
I'm not really sure the length of time, but once we can start talking about that, we can come to an agreement on the length of time.
I'm just wondering what would be the process, because I know, I mean, I'm not directly involved in the planning of this since I'm on the Walk of Recognition, but my experience with the Walk of Recognition is that you really need to have some of these foundational details
Right.
clarified. Because if you're planning for something, but it turns out it's not fully approved, it can really become complicated. So my sense would be, as just a member of the committee, I'd want the space to be formally approved so that the planning for that space can take place.
Yes.
And not be disrupted if the space is, that finds out later that space is not available. So it strikes me that the space approval in the Costa building is actually an essential first step for the Black History Center.
Right.
My question would be who would we be leasing the space to? I don't know if the Black History Center committee is like a nonprofit or the legal structure of that entity yet, nor what would be required in order for us to enact some sort of agreement. But those are some questions on y'all side, perhaps that we can engage staff on, but just some other things to think about.
Okay.
In addition to, I think it'll probably start with a conversation with the mayor and commissioners about what, if they're comfortable moving forward with a sole, just go ahead and make the agreement, or if, folks want to see the results of the study of what else can go in there to understand how it would all fit together, or get other requests for proposals. While I am supportive of having this space dedicated to that, ultimately has to be approved by all of us. So engaging with my colleagues to see, what all they have in mind as well might be the first, one of the first steps to take. And
Okay.
I'd be happy to help guide, introduce and guide those conversations.
Okay, so if you would start introducing the conversation, Commissioner Parker, and then we can understand what all is needed to move forward. Because right now we don't know what all is needed, but I'm sure that it will be whatever is needed. We will work to get the description or whatever is needed in place.
And I think that question that was posed of who's the entity running, for lack of a better word, the Black History Center, I guess I always assumed this was a Clarke County thing, but nobody's ever really explicitly talked about it. So maybe we need to also get clarification on that. Ms. Hattie, did you have a particular understanding of who kind of is running the Black History Center? Obviously, there's people who you've assembled in a committee, but who's technically in charge of? I can't think of the right word.
I'm trying to put a board together that would work on these things that you all are just talking about now. And the board will work together and put everything in place that we need, the working board. I have some people on that board, but a few more people need to be on the board, and this board will act in a way that would put all the pieces in place going forward. Once we understand what is needed, this board.
So thinking procedurally, then this is a question to everyone, in particular, city folks who know procedure. Should this committee be making a recommendation for a board of directors or advisors for the Black History Center that then is voted on by the mayor and commission? You see what I'm saying? Because if I just we've run into these issues lately, right? So if Ms. Hattie's putting together this board, how is that officially recognized by the city? Or is it not? And I think we need really clear information on that, because this is where things get confusing and a lot of work can be done, and then a lot of uncertainty can come back in later when this committee's been doing stuff that they thought they were supposed to be doing, but it turns out the city was supposed to be involved in a way that we were not aware of. So could someone clarify how we can get a official board of advisors for the Black History Center that's recognized by the city in place.
Well, if there's a committee that the mayor and commission would create that committee,
Okay.
and the mayor would help to appoint those folks, usually in consultation with the commissioners, and depending on how it was set up, if it's sort of a ad hoc task force type thing, the mayor, like this one, the mayor makes this, if it's created more like a standing committee, then the commission meet often and take applications and fill those. I guess, just clinically, Dr. Rice, is it within the scope of this body to be recommending a Black History Museum? Is that outside of Lennon? Ms. Hattie, certainly you have the prerogative to start something different from this on your own and create a board if you'd like. But that would be akin to another, say, nonprofit, if you will, that might, has its own mission and wants to do things. So I think at the end of the day, the commission would need to create a board that would be around that, or as an outside board to the commission, you could make a proposal or make suggestions to the commission on what you'd like to see
Okay.
if you started something totally different. And it really goes back to the charge, and this is something we often do with committees is because there's just so much that you can get involved with. You kind of anchor back on your charge, and I think that was something the mayor was going to discuss, Ms. Hattie, because I know y'all have got so much work going on, just to make sure that we're to Jen's point, where we are with all this.
Yes. And he and I have been meeting, and we have been meeting, and I have the charge, and we've been discussing what we're going to do. What's the next steps? So, like, I'm not doing this alone. We are both meeting and talking about this and trying to figure out the next step to go. So, but
I'm sorry, Miss Hattie. Sorry.
he's back, and when he's back in the first of the year, we are going to be centered on what the next steps are. With boards, with committees, we're going to be centered on that.
Okay.
I can only speak for myself as a member on this committee, but others might chime in about how they feel about it. But I have been operating under the assumption that anything discussed on these calls in particular, right? These ones that are videotaped and archived and have minutes, is official JMP business that the staff is aware of, and that unless we're told otherwise, we have some level of authorization to be doing. So we've been talking about the board that Ms. Hattie's been putting together for the Black History Center now for multiple meetings. So I think it would be helpful if we could get clarification we've been proceeding that if we're telling everybody on this call that we're doing something and we don't hear otherwise, that we need to wait for approval or have something go through a process, we're doing it. And we're putting dozens, if not hundreds of hours into it. So I'm wondering if we could get some clarification then on this point, because I think there's confusion on all these projects.
Well, if we can pull up the scope of the charge to the committee, I think that, that's what you anchor on as far as what the committee should. The committee is an advisory body to the mayor and commission. That's how it was initially set up. So from time to time, the commission would expect that you making a recommendation to the commission about what you'd like to see as it's related to your charge. If you want to expand the scope, that might be something that breaks off from this committee. That, it's gotten some momentum from the discussions and people have made connections, and you want to, but we really have to anchor back to the charge that the commission, the mayor gave to the body for what recommendations come back to the commission. And so I think that's what I would say, as opposed to, well, we've been talking about this and nobody's ever said no. I would say that's what we would adhere to, but I don't want to be too dogmatic about it. I don't want to stifle y'all's creativity either, because you're doing great work. So, whether or not I would say if the, to say this committee with this specific charge as advisory committee has the authority to create its own board for a Black History Museum, I would defer back to the mayor and commission and but can you set up, Hattie, can you bring a group of people together and say we're the group interested in the Black History Museum and we have a voice and we want to put forth a vision for this? Absolutely.
Well, what I want to do is I'm going to put an overview together on what all we have done thus far, and maybe take it to the mayor and commission's meeting so they can see what has been done and see if that's in line with the charge that that was created and given to us. Is that, Mariah? Is that a good way to go with this overview?
I think starting out with just looking at the charge and I can I can kind of fill folks in on like what we have been working on and sort of comparing those. And I think, as Blaine said, if we need to amend it to include some of this work that is being done that is outside the scope, we can. I just don't want to give you any extra work to like put together a whole presentation or something, when I think just relaying to the mayor and commission what's what's evident in our minutes and taking a look at the original. I think that would be enough for right now.
Okay. Well, you're going to take it to the other commissioners, the work that has been done.
Yeah, I'll summarize some of the recent meetings and pull up the original charge and sort of ask folks what they would like to do.
And then get back if you would get back with me so I understand. Yes. And then I will personally get with the mayor as well. And be prepared to talk with the committee members on our next meeting. Okay.
This is super helpful for process, right? Because I think many of us have been kind of working and not knowing when, where, how to bring things for various procedural things. So I think in general, at least I would ask that definitely chime in, anybody who knows better than us, like this needs to go to and have a proposal that goes to a work session or this or that. And thank you, Commissioner Parker, for
thank you
that person who helps us figure that out. Thank you. And all of y'all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody. Yeah.
One more thing. Would you all like to have a set meeting on a Wednesday of each month? Right now, it's just been, what I do is try to reach out to a couple of the committee chairs and make sure that they are available. But if you want a set meeting each month, then we can do that. Would you all like to meet a set Wednesday, every third Wednesday, say?
Yeah, for me, knowing in advance that it's always going to be the same day, I know not to schedule other stuff there rather than, you having to go around and call everybody to make sure they're available on a non-standing day.
Do you want to meet like the third Wednesday of a month? Okay, third Wednesday of each month, unless we don't have a need to meet.
Okay.
Is that agreeable with everybody?
Yes.
Okay, well, we got it. Okay. Anything else? Good meeting. This has been a good meeting. A lot of clarification is needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank y'all very much.
Because we got a lot of work that's going on outside of these meetings. It's a great deal of work. So if we don't need to work that hard, then this committee can tell us, and then we can pull back from getting some things done. Okay.
Very helpful. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
All right.
All in
favor? That was very helpful.
All right. Be soon.
Bye-bye.
Right.
Bye-bye.